The government's scorched earth immigration crackdown has turned migrant agricultural workers into enemies and the fields that sustain us into battlegrounds.
Michael Owen Baker captured this image for the Associated Press during a federal immigration raid at Glass House Farms in Camarillo, California on July 10, 2025. It shows agents deploying tear gas against protesters who had gathered outside the agricultural facility. The raid, which resulted in over 300 arrests and one worker's death, represents a dramatic escalation of the Trump administration's immigration enforcement tactics in California's agricultural heartland and raises concerns about disruptions to the nation's food supply.
If you look at other images of this event, many of those photos really highlight the chaos and violence of the federal agents' confrontation with protesters. What this image does differently, I think, is to really invite the viewer to slow down and kind of focus on the bigger picture of what this event means rather than the chaotic visual drama that unfolded in real time.
Although the confrontation between the approximately 500 protesters and troops is not visible in this photo, it wouldn't have happened in the first place without the provocation of a raid. What you can't see is the raid taking place in the distant background at the actual farm facility. There are photos where you see federal cars racing down that distant road, but outside of that, the actual purpose of the raid is invisible to us. It is worth noting that out of the 361 people arrested, almost all of them were farm workers.
To me, one of the surprises of this photo is that it's taking place against the backdrop of an agricultural landscape. Typically, when we see news photos of protesters squaring off against what might be termed a disproportionate law enforcement response, those images appear more in urban settings. In this way, this photo kind of calls to mind images from recent urban racial justice marches. I see here even a bit of a visual echo of the famous photo of Aisha Evans in 2016 in Baton Rouge by Jonathan Bogman, where she stood alone against a massive and largely anonymous law enforcement presence.
It really is powerful from a framing standpoint and incredibly descriptive. The way that the freeze frame documents the oncoming smoke from the chemical weapon, the animation of the troops, particularly in contrast to the still and completely compliant protester. And then lastly, how the protester is actually aligned perfectly with the crops while the troops are stomping through them.
In the context of previous statements from the president, where he said, well, there will be no crackdown on farm workers, this event showed those statements to be complete lies. We have this beautiful sunny day, and yet you have this event unfolding. It's just really clear evidence that while these agents of the federal government may be hiding their faces, their actions are now regularly taking place in the cold light of day.